that can happen if you forget that you're wearing a microphone. I used to wear this headset microphone at one of the previous churches that I served at. It was this big, huge stage, and they had these alcoves on the sides that you could go and hide in. And one Sunday, I had to blow my nose really bad, wearing a headset microphone, and I ran to the alcove, and all anybody heard was, and I was trying to be a good person and get off stage. The good time. And I think you were there that day. Yeah. So the good times. So whenever that you're full of the Spirit and want to let it out, just let you know that sometimes there's a microphone that God will amplify that too. So let's join together in prayer. Precious God, thank you for moments of silliness that we can just be grateful. Thank you for trusted friends that we just at times need to just breathe and say thank you. Thank you for dear friends that care so much and so loudly about things that sometimes we just need to say thank you. Precious God, be with us today as we look at this scripture to Philippi and just be our words, be our spirit, and be our guide. Amen. Amen. So great. I'm just really happy to be here today. I want you to think about last week's sermon a little bit because it'll lead into the scripture today. And I want to talk about the necessity of having an image to look towards to inspire us to grow outside of ourselves, to have the motivation to do great things, to have the motivation to try new things, and the motivation to look at the world through a different set of eyes. My dear friends Michael, Andrew, and Charlie brought a really cool example of that today. I probably will never own the Batmobile. I want to. I'd love to have that sit in my driveway. Could you imagine if I pulled in here one Sunday in the Batmobile and how just full of myself I would be in the sermon that day? Not that I'm not always just a little bit full of myself when I'm up here speaking.
You have to go get it at the Macy's Thanksgiving the Mother Goose Parade today. It's going to be
Is it going to be there? Does anybody have a tow truck? Okay. I'll never have the Batmobile, but I have a Batmobile on my desk. The opportunity to see something to remind me of something bigger than myself. I want us to think about that as our lives as Christ, as Christians. We'll never live to the perfection that Christ lived to because we'll never be perfect as Christ was. We do have this theory and philosophy within our Wesleyan history, our Wesleyan tradition, that John Wesley coined the phrase, we are a people always striving for perfection. We are a people always on a path towards perfection. And the only place that we will reach that perfection is when we are in our whole bodies in the presence of Christ. But we get to be smaller images from time to time of God's perfect love. I want you to think of all the places that you have the opportunity to go out and be a presence. I want you to think about all the places that you are called to go and serve in very specific and loving ways. Michelle, who's celebrating her anniversary with us today at our church, has the opportunity to be the image and love of my dear Sagewood House friends here in the front row and to inspire them to see the potential in their lives and how to live every day. That is a strong image of grace and love. Jeff is nodding in approval, which is a very smart thing to do as a husband on your second anniversary.
You need a pirate ship by scratch.
I'm going to ask him about that after the sermon. Because now I want a pirate ship and not just a Batmobile. I want you to think about all those places. Some of us are grandparents and grand aunts that bring their grandkids to church to give them an opportunity to do things. Some of us are moms and dads that wrestle our kids together and try to put a good set of clothes on them so that they can come and hear about Christ. Some of us are dear loving friends, even in our 90s, that come to make the pastor happy so that we can see the smiling faces and know how to go out and live and serve. The images that we have the opportunity to be as smaller images of the perfect love, I want you to think about that today. Because that's where the fruits of things come from. The writer of the Philippians verses, the letter to Philippi, is Paul. And Paul also wrote a letter to the church of Galatia. And within Paul's letter to the church of Galatia, he begins to lay out an image of what it means to be a person that's striving towards perfection. In Galatians chapter 2, verses 26 through 27, it says, "For the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, hope, patience, kindness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law." I do read the Bible, and I do have some Bible verses memorized. If I lose my cadence, it didn't get all the way out. But the fruits of the Spirit are hope, love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Where do we see these things? We are inspired by so many dear people and so many dear friends to become something that is greater than us, and to be inspired to live a life that is outside of our understanding. I feel, as it also says, that all things are possible through Christ who gives me strength. And as soon as we have these images in our lives of the potential that we can live towards, and we take the time to try them, and we take the opportunities to live towards them, it's not just our lives that are changed. It's not just our lives that are transformed. But other people watch us and other people benefit from those actions. And their lives are transformed and changed for the better as well. There's so many dear souls that have existed through time that motivate us in this way. Riding in the car with my dad growing up, I listened to the music that he played. And I have since forced my kids to do the same. I was introduced to a man named Harry Chapin, and Harry Chapin, after I fell in love with his story songs, I actually began to learn about his life. And if you were at the retreat we had a few months ago, you've heard about Harry, but I'm going to give you a second dose about Harry. Harry Chapin was a person whose life motto was, when in doubt, do something. In the lyrics of one of Harry Chapin's songs, it says, if a man tried to spend his time on earth to prove before he died what one man's life could be worth, I wonder what would happen to this world. The work and the efforts and the abilities to begin to think outside of ourselves and to ask the questions, if I looked at the needs of others, if I looked at the desires and the fears of others, and I worked hard to participate in the care of those others, what could happen to this world? You look at the life of the Apostle Paul, and it's that person asking that question. We shared last week during the sermon that the Apostle Paul started as Saul, a person full of flaws and shortcomings and holdups, a person that was the tormentor of the ones who followed Christ. He had anchors in his life, not just barriers, but anchors in his life. That because of the presence and interaction of Jesus Christ, he found a way to overcome those things, to set that baggage down, literally, at the feet of Jesus Christ, and to move forward to no longer being Saul the tormentor, but Paul the major voice of the Christian way. And the transformation that came into his life and beginning to be spread to others because he was willing to do one simple thing. To show to other people that as soon as a life is affected by Jesus Christ, to show if that person took their time on earth to prove before they died what one person's life could be worth, I wonder what would happen to this world. There's a lot of things that come along and get in the way, and it's why that I love Thanksgiving so much. It's not just turkey and football that I look forward to every Thanksgiving, but it's this time that we get this really true challenge to say, I am grateful for this. It's a time that we are challenged to intentionally focus. I am thankful for this. Paul was a human being. Paul was imprisoned for being the one who shared the message of the new way. Paul could have said, I'm done with this every time that he was imprisoned, but he did not. He looked for the hope and the opportunity that could come from his freedom in the real freeing power of Jesus Christ. And he continued on the message and never gave up. I don't know about you, and I don't know about any other pastor that's ever stood in this pulpit, but I will be a pastor that will admit to you, there are some days that I wake up and I don't want to just hit the snooze alarm. I want to throw the alarm clock out of the window and build a fort and hide for the rest of the day. Because it's a reality. We live within an existence that we are moving on to perfection, but we are not perfect. And the things that make us not perfect sometimes can have such an over-controlling weight on our shoulders that we just want to say, no way today. No way today. But there's a difference in the story of those who have followed the path of Christ. And every time I hear the utterance of the phrases that through the blessings of Christ, all things are possible, I realize that all things are possible even on the days that I want to build a fort and hide in my bed. I want you to think about that. Because sometimes the things that make us want to build the fort are the things that slow us down so much that we are stopped. But I want you to be reminded that Jesus Christ can never be stopped. What I love about the image that comes through John Wesley's explanation of grace is this, is that in all stages of grace, we are a people that have to deal with our shortcomings. But Jesus Christ is always the person reaching out for us to grab his hand and to follow him to better things. When you look at our explanation of prevenient grace, and we talk about a grace that exists even when we don't know our own names, much less God's name, God is reaching out for us even in a moment of unknowing. When we look at the reality of justifying grace and the reality that we finally know who the Redeemer is, who is reaching out for us, we get to say, Jesus Christ, I know you're real. And we get to reach out and intentionally do things because God is real. And then we get to this beautiful place of sanctifying grace or sustaining grace, that we are literally walking hand in hand with Jesus Christ. And there's nothing that the anchors or the barriers of the world can do to stop us from living within that love to get to beautiful places. One of the things that I like about the reality of sustaining grace, sanctifying grace, is the idea that there comes a point in our lives that there truly is the potential to not let the things that make us want to build forts have control. But we're standing so close to Jesus Christ that we forget that those things ever existed. And that potential exists. As we move into this time of Thanksgiving, and we begin to ask God the question, these are the things that I'm thankful for, so how can I be the person to use these things to show if a person took their time on earth to prove before they died what one person's life could be worth? I wonder what would happen to this world. I want you to take a moment to allow yourself to forget. I want you to take a moment to allow yourself to forget the baggage that you brought in with you today. I want to give you a moment to forget about the things that have made you want to hide in your forts all week. And I just want you to sit down, and I want you with a childlike heart of potential and opportunity say, "Dear God, thank you for your light. Dear God, thank you for the light of your presence." There is a spiritual activity that our children get to take part in, that they become the main example of why we're here. If you want to talk about the imagery of a matchbox car being a smaller example of something that is so great and large, it's when our kids have the opportunity to be the acolytes before and after the service. There's a reality that comes from that practice. It's a reality that when we come into this building, the light of Jesus Christ comes in with us and sits with us as we take the time to worship and to grow. But here's the beautiful part. When we leave, it goes out with us. Wherever we're at, wherever we go, the light of Jesus Christ is walking with us side by side. It doesn't just exist within this sacred place, but it also exists in our forts when we're hiding from the things that make us want to say, "I'm done." I want you to hold on to that. Because when we can take the light of Christ even into the forts of our hiding, we can begin to tear the walls down on our forts and begin to see the potential that exists in the greater world. And that comes from the spiritual practice of gratitude. It comes from the spiritual practice of being willing to say, "You know what? I had a really bad day today, but I got to see my kids smile at me. I got to get up and I got to go outside again. I got to challenge myself to grow in a new and scary way. I let that person that cared about things even louder than I do have someone to rebound those cares against. And now that we're all on the same level and we have a different kind of understanding. It comes from the reality of just being willing to walk in the spiritual practice of gratitude. I'm not going to end the sermon today. I want someone else to end the sermon. I don't know if you ever watch YouTube videos. But yeah, Taylor, I know that you do. There's this character called Kid President. Have you ever seen Kid President? Oh, he's awesome. I'm going to let Kid President give you the inspiration to look at the things to be grateful for instead of being worried about the things that we want to build our forts and hide from. I want you to watch this lovely young man talk about the things that we should be thankful for. And as we leave this building today, with our hearts of thanks and gratitude, we can remember that we are people who are so loved by God that we can be the ones to prove what our lives could be worth. If we took every day to say thank you and to show God's love to others. So watch this very beautiful video on gratitude and thanks. Take it with you into your hiding forts, but more importantly, take it into your everydays so that you know that God is there even in our worst times. Even when you mess up the slides.
So, let's be real. Some days are hard. So I made this. List of awesome things I'm thankful for. Yeah. Sometimes I need to remind me that things are not all that bad. So I wanted to share a few, because you guys are my friends. It's great to be alive. And here's some reminders of that. First order, weather. The Jackson and drum, like this. I'm also thankful for the little pop pads like the cats and dogs had in the 70s. Oh, man. I love them. Hey, turn that back on. Oh, no. Change it. Yeah, there, that's better. Music is magical. It can make anything better. Right music can make a video better. The same goes with life. Singing. I'm pop singing. If something's boring, just sing it, and that will make it better. Watching paint dry. It's really cool. There's people who still hold fans. Clouds that look like stuff. One time I saw a cloud that looked like an airplane, and I realized it was an airplane. Imagination. Without it, we wouldn't have airplanes, no internet, pants. Pants. We gotta wear them, because if we didn't, it'd be so off. Pants. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Clean. Clothes with funny names, like Windbreaker. Birthday cake. Never even real cake. Just cake. Sorry, we filmed this while I was hungry. Forgiveness! Okay, person by perfect. Ain't even a word. We all mess up. Come on. Don't mess up and forget to forgive all the mess up. Thankful plants undergo photosynthesis, using the energy from the sun to convert carbon dioxide to oxygen, providing us with the air we need to do things like this. I'm bored. Working through this. Hello, I'm working through it. I'm working on it. My voice is changing, but I haven't changed that much. Food. I go. Burger. I know, I already said food, but this is my list and my rules. Happiness. Sadness. Sad isn't bad. Helps you know what you care about. People. Sometimes people can be really people, but we need each other. Life's better with people in it. Family, friends, you, just being alive. Sometimes we forget how it's just great to be alive. We're breathing. Some days are tough, but we got a lot to be thankful for. We just have to look for it sometimes. They say if you have food in your fridge, clothes on your back, and a place to sleep, you're richer than 75% of the world. I did not know that. So what would you add to the list? Let me know. Share this video with someone you're really thankful for. Oh, and of course, also this. Dancing!
So take that image of gratitude with you. May the peace of the Lord Jesus Christ be with you.
And also with you.